Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Thinking Caps On. It has been a long time since I've recorded one of these episodes. I think the last one was back in July, so that's like 3 months from the date of this recording. Long overdue, I think. But on the flip, I have moved into a new house, so there's been a lot of unpacking, a lot of getting the new home office set up, and the dedicated YouTube studio set up, but there's more on that later. At any rate, I do have a great story for you here from the Bible, and since this is being recorded on a Sunday, we're actually going to do a little bit of Bible reading. Oh, lordy. No pun intended. So, yes, what better way to kick off another episode of Thinking Caps On, and the first one to be recorded in the new office, than a story about murder, mayhem, death, fire, destruction. Okay, that was a little weird, but yeah, okay. You know how it is when you move into a new house and you're still learning all of the little ins and outs of what is actually happening in that house.
Me, please.
That. Okay. Yep. So we'll look into that one a little bit later. Who are you going to call, right? So anyway, our story comes from the first chapter of the book of 2 Kings. Now, you know how the first chapter or two of a book kind of sets the tone for what that story is going to be about? Well, this chapter of 2 Kings is no exception. It really sets the tone for what's to come. So what we have here, I'm going to show you, or I'm going to share my screen, and we'll go over this story together and just kind of break it down piece by piece. But as with all stories, it starts with an inciting event of someone with really bad construction work. Maybe there's termites. Let me show you. Here we are in the book of 2 Kings, and we learn about a certain king by the name of Ahaziah. We'll call him the Big A, just, yeah, not that big A like from Happy Days, but a different kind of big A. Anyway, it says here that he fell down through the grating in his roof chamber in Samaria and was injured. And so he sent messengers to inquire of Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, to find out if he would recover from this injury. Now, for all we know, all he did was inquire of like a doctor, but because this story has to be written and made dramatic and so on, we'll inquire of another god. So we'll just take this story at face value. How he fell through the grating in his roof chamber, I don't know, termites, something, but yeah. So then the angel of Jehovah says to Elijah, "Rise up and go to meet the messengers of the king and say to them, is it because there is no God in Israel that you are going to inquire of Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron? Therefore, this is what Jehovah says, you will not leave the bed on which you are lying, for you will certainly die." So let's just pause there for a moment. We have here basically a very jealous God who doesn't like you inquiring of anyone else besides him as to what the future is going to be. And again, for all we know, Ahaziah was just going to inquire of his doctor, like, get me my best doctor. Like, am I going to live or what? But oh no, Jehovah's like,
because you didn't ask me, you did. Y'all be fucked.
That's what this boils down to. So yeah, you're going to die, not because of your back injury, but because I said so. So loving. So then we have the messengers coming back to Ahaziah, and he's like, what are you doing back here? And they said, well, there was a man who came up to meet us, and he tells the exposits about the whole exchange and says, like, well, what did he look like? And I love the description here. They said He was a man with a garment of hair and a leather belt around his waist. Couldn't that really describe anyone? Like, hello? Nope, Ahaziah knows. Yep, that's Elijah the Tishbite. Okay. What we have here is, like, you don't even have the king sending out any kind of messengers to Elijah at all. Remember, the whole point of this is that he is inquiring not of Elijah through Jehovah through Elijah or anything. No, we're talking to Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron. And again, that could have just been his family doctor. But, Jehovah being super jealous and everything else, nope, you shouldn't have asked him. You should have asked me. And because of that, you're going to die. So what we have here is what some of us in the programming industry like to call a man-in-the-middle kind of attack. They were on their way to see somebody, and along comes Elijah, who cuts them off and tells them, nope, this is your answer, head on back. So, yeah, I guess these men never really got to go and fetch the doctor. The man-in-the-middle attack, their message is interrupted, hijacked, and the response changed. So you would think that if this happened to you, imagine you're King Ahaziah for a moment. You're going to be like, okay, let's just go and get Elijah and have a chat with him, okay? Because I wasn't even asking for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, let's get back to the story. So here in verse 9, the king sends to Elijah a chief of 50 with his men. And they go up, and here's Elijah sitting on the top of a mountain because, that's what you do when you're a prophet. You just sit all alone in mountains. And he says to him, man of the true God, the king says, come down. But Elijah answered the chief of the 50, well, if I am a man of God, let fire come down from the heavens and consume you and your 50 men. I may have changed the voice a little bit. And fire came down from the heavens and consumed him and his 50 men. So the king sends again to him another chief of 50 with his men. Man of the true God, this is what the king says. Come down quickly. Now, imagine just for a moment that the word down isn't in here. Then this story would take a whole other thing. Man of the true God, come quickly. No, really, I'm 41 years old. I'm not 14, honest. But Elijah answered them and says, if I am a man of the true God, let fire come down from the heavens and consume you and your 50 men. And fire of God came down from the heavens and consumed him and his 50 men. So what exactly have these 102 individuals done wrong? Apparently, they had the nerve to come to Elijah and deliver a message from the king. The king said, come down, I need to talk to you. So they go to Elijah and say, come down, we need to talk to you. This is what the king told us. Nope. Apparently, they're supposed to be burned alive. Like, for what? For what? It makes no sense whatsoever for Elijah to call down fire from these men and burn them alive. It makes zero sense. Especially right here, when he says, if I am a man of God, let fire come down from the heavens and consume you. Well, I mean, I might need to change my story on that just a little bit. Because if you think about it, one thing that we've learned from the consideration of the second drama, Beware of Losing Faith, that we talked about in Your Childhood Drama, episode 2. There's probably a card up here somewhere for it. But Jehovah loves burning people alive. It loves death, murder, and mayhem, because throughout the whole drama, all you're reading about is the Israelites being killed off in batches of hundreds and at times thousands, and even at other times tens of thousands. So 50? Chump change as far as Jehovah's concerned. But Elijah says, if I am a man of God, then let this happen. So yeah, if Elijah represents Jehovah, a God of death, murder, and mayhem, then yes, this makes a lot of sense for him to call down fire from heaven. Okay? This is in imitation of the God that he is supposed to be a prophet for. So, yeah, it actually kind of does make sense because Jehovah is a killer, like a cold-blooded killer. Anyway, let's get back to the story. Because now what we have is a third chief. And you know how they say third time's the charm? Well, this story actually bears that out. So here we have in verse 13, the king sent again a third chief of 50 and his men. But the third chief of 50 went up and bowed down on his knees in front of Elijah and began to beg for his favor and say to him, "Man of the true God,
Man of the true God, please, let my life and the lives of these 50 servants of yours be precious, precious in your eyes. Fire has already come down from the heavens. I can't even, please let me live."
And because of that, Jehovah says to Elijah, "Go down with him. Don't be afraid. The man's a bit of a puss." Like, seriously, and then we have the whole thing again, like, you sent messengers to inquire and Jehovah got pissed right the fuck off. Therefore, you're not going to leave the bed on which you're lying. You'll die. And it says, so he died according to the word of Jehovah that Elijah had spoken. And that's the end of that story. So just imagine this for a moment, okay? You have this chieftain, or this chief, over 50 men. He comes down and bows down on his knees, looking for favor in Elijah's eyes. He's just seen or heard about 102 of his fellow army men and 2 other chiefs. Maybe they were buddies. They got burned alive just because they delivered the message. And so he comes and bows down in front of Elijah. Now, this is really kind of interesting because if you think about the General Cornelius in the book of Acts, when Peter goes to meet him and Peter has to tell him, no, get up off of your knees. I'm just a man. Well, Peter, in the end, is kind of like in the same position that Elijah is here. Like, they're supposed to be a prophet, imbued with all kinds of Holy Spirit, blah, 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 blah. Peter says, like, I'm just a man just like you. You don't have to do that. But apparently this is the whole thing that saves this man's life, as well as the 50 men that are with him, because he went and bowed down to another man and begged for mercy and his life for just doing his job of delivering a message. Watchtower claims that, well, the first 2 were really disrespectful and therefore that's why they deserve to die. Well, even if that's remotely true, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it, because this is not loving. This is not even remotely justified. Okay? Like, it's ridiculous. And just to prove that this is not an isolated incident, I'm going to show you another story from the very next chapter. And this is now not about Elijah anymore. This is about his successor, the person that he trained, who supposedly had double the portion of Holy Spirit that Elijah was supposed to have. Take a look. So here we have in the book of 2 Kings, you have Elijah and Elisha. They're traveling together. And what we have is that it says that Jehovah was about to take Elijah up to the heavens in a windstorm. Okay? So Elijah's telling him, like, stay here because Jehovah's sending me on to this place and so on. Elisha is like, no, as surely as Jehovah is living and as you are living, I'm not leaving. And then you have like some of the prophets in Bethel. They come out to Elisha like, do you know that today Jehovah is taking your master away from headship over you? At this he said, I already know it. Be silent. So in other words, duh, shut the fuck up. Like, throughout this whole chapter, this is basically what it is. It's like 3 incidences of the same thing. You have Elijah telling Elisha, stay here. Elisha's like, no, I'm coming with you. And then somebody else like, do you know that Jehovah is taking your master away? I know, shut the fuck up. But what we have here in the end, like after Elijah is taken away, Elisha is starting to go on his way. And as he's traveling up, here in verse 23, we'll read it together. It says, he went up from there to Bethel. As he was going along the way, some young boys came out from the city and began to jeer at him. And they kept saying to him, "Go up, you bald head. Go up, you bald head." Finally, he turned around and looked at them and cursed them in the name of Jehovah. Then 2 she-bears came out of the forest and tore 42 of the children to pieces. Can we just have a moment of silence for those 42 children that were torn to pieces? Seriously. 42 children. Now that's 42 of the children. So there's probably a lot more. But they're going up to Elisha and they're poking fun at him for being bald. Now, look, bullying sucks. Okay, it's a shitty thing to do to others. Okay, but I mean, I was bullied in school for being a Jehovah's Witness and also for having a visual impairment and so on. But like, would I turn around and like curse people in the name of Jehovah and cause 2 she-bears to come and just maul them and rip 42 of them apart? Well, no, I would be a psychopath. If anything, it should be like, well, go on up, Stefan, you bald head. I'd be like, well, thank you. Bald is beautiful. But no, like throughout this chapter, Elisha is shown to be this mean asshole of a man, really. And it's kind of unsurprising that this chapter culminates in him causing 2 she-bears to rip 42 children to pieces. So consider these 2 men. Both of them are supposed to be the sort of leading prophets of Jehovah in Israel at the time. And they're wiping out groups of like 50 or 42 here at a time. Like, why? How is that remotely loving? But you know what? It just shows that it's an imitation of the God that they are worshiping and representing. Because if Jehovah is willing to wipe out in one go 24,000 people, like I said before, what's 42? Children, no less. Children, not grown men. Children. Not even grown men that are armed, like say the 102 that approached Elijah to deliver a message. No, these are just children that have come out to like pick on somebody. Okay, so yeah, their parents probably should have taught them a lot of respect for their elders and so on, but not worthy of being torn to pieces. So imagine if you're a parent, would you read these stories to your kids at night? Maybe at around Halloween. Oh, yeah, think about that. Let's just listen in on what that might have sounded like.
Once upon a time, there was a young man who was a prophet of Jehovah. And when he was walking up to Bethel one day, some boys came out and said to him, "Go up, you bald head. Go up, you bald head." And finally, he turned around and looked at them and cursed them in the name of Jehovah. So 2 she-bears came out of the forest and ripped up 42 of those little boys and girls.
Okay. Scary? Yeah, just, a little bit scary. I didn't like that. Tell me a better story.
Yeah, traumatizing, don't you think? So, and the problem here is like, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to tell kids like, yeah, like make sure you respect your elders. Well, that's a good thing. Yay. But, these men, they represented Jehovah. So draw the line. Okay. These men represented Jehovah. They were disrespected. These people died. The elders today are a gift from Jehovah. It doesn't matter if they are really fucked right up in the head. It doesn't really matter if they molested you and so on. They are appointed by Jehovah. So don't you dare speak out against them, no matter what kind of evil things you do. Draw the line between those two, and this is how you get kids to stay silent when they've been abused. Physically, sexually, mentally, exploited for free labor to build watchtowers, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. Yeah. When you think about this, does this really seem like something that you'd want to be a part of? Things that make you go, Keep your thinking caps on. Please stay tuned. There's lots of great content coming. And until we see each other again, talk to you soon.